Hello, Eric Magidson, and anyone else who stumbles upon my YouTube channel. This is Team 4's final video presentation, and we'll be starting off talking about the memo project that we had. And I have pulled up on screen is just my memo that I had, so we can talk about that. And what I liked about this one was I don't really research laws that much at all, so I did get a good chance to learn about laws, data breach laws, where to research laws in general about Oregon state laws, and even how to write a memo. This was the first one, and it was able to be refined. When we pull up the second memo that we did, I was able to do a much better job executing that one. But overall, I think that this project was great. I think that for an individual lab, it hits the mark. And yeah, I'll let Dawn take over.
Yeah, so I have mine pulled up and I'm looking over it because it was a little while ago since we did it. Um, but what I got out of it is laws are pretty boring to read. But you can get a lot of information out of it if you can cipher through everything. And it is actually pretty scary of all the consequences on doing things that you don't think of like it being that bad. Obviously it's bad. It's just didn't think those consequences are that high. So it was definitely an eye opener when I redid this or did this memo, looking into all of the massive fines that companies can get and things like that. So I really did enjoy doing this assignment. Um, yeah, and it was great feedback too, of what you said, what I could improve on it, type of thing. So yeah.
Definitely, it felt the same way, and that'll move us on into our next topic, which is the network portion.
So my impression of the networking assignments for this class has been they are rather intensive and very it's a very good test of like your knowledge of the concepts within the class. The most effective assignments that we've had up to this point have been for in this field anyway, have been the virtual network field trip and the Meraki network setup. The field trip, because it gives us a very, very good idea of how a local network is set up, and specifically because it's showing us a local network as it would be implemented. And the Meraki network setup gives us a very, very good idea of how it is set up um, electronically on the software end of things.
I have pulled up here on my screen our final documentation from the Meraki implementation. I'll start off with the one thing I thought that maybe having the first assignment where we document like create a network structure could be more geared around the actual Meraki equipment we're going to use, because I found that our group went a little crazy and then we had to scale it down and do a little more thinking on that end when we were actually implementing it. But aside from that, I'm a networking nerd, so getting to work with Meraki was super cool. That was a great experience. Seeing West Side's network through the virtual field trips was awesome, and just overall practicing this was a joy to do with these gentlemen. Have you met Don?
Hey, so to cap on what Griffin and Grady said, this network segment of this course was fantastic, and I do agree with Grady where, it would have been nice to tie those two together. But the same aspect, you got to see, two different types of builds and everything like that. What I'm used to is, just rows and rows of servers and things like that, and going on that little field trip and seeing those IDFs and how all those are interacted with each other, was pretty cool to do, and or pretty cool to see anyway. And doing that Meraki setup, I don't do it, in my work I don't really set up the networks. I just pretty much troubleshoot the networks, and to actually implement and do that besides my own personal lab, was pretty cool to do as well. Yeah, that's basically what I have on networking. Our next up to bat will be talking about our 5-year budget.
All right, so moving on to our budget, I pulled up our final budget that we turned in, and this project in particular, it wasn't as intensive as the network one, but I had equally as much fun with this because this is just going out and shopping pretty much and getting a hypothetical budget for a company and seeing what you can do out of it to me is fun. The consumer in me has just had a great time with this. I also really learned about how to maintain a budget, keep it in a budget, realize that like oh, we can't always justify the most high end projects. We have to be realistic. So, gauging around there and trying to be as realistic as we can and seeing the real numbers too. It's interesting to see that aspect of the corporate lifestyle. So that leads us to Dawn.
Yeah, so with this project, we really thought about, like what it takes to actually start from ground zero and really see what all the cost is. And when we were seeing that 5-year budget or 5-year grand total, we're like, wow, that especially for a small business, that is actually a lot of money. But in all reality, that's realistic. Especially if you're buying everything from scratch. And we wanted to make sure we had ways to grow. With those 40 gigabit switch Ethernet port. There's only 10 people there, so you don't need all of that, but you can. And it's really nice to see, how other companies how they can deal with it, how to have enough revenue to even maintain this. So it was a really cool project to do to the budget. And to finish it off, I'm going to go ahead and give it over to Griffin.
Yeah, I definitely agree with like just it's fun to go shopping just in general, even theoretically speaking. But also thinking about like the kind of things that this kind of network would require, like just like Don said, all the way down to the Velcro straps. It's a very interesting thing to think about because you're not always thinking about the smaller parts of everything, what it requires to hold everything together, and uh, it puts into perspective everything that like any kind of company would need to set anything up, not just on from a monetary side, but from like the physical from the physical devices all the way down to the required software that those devices would need to run properly. I think that this is a very good way to um, put this into perspective, put these kinds of setups into perspective for people looking into going into the field and trying to learn more about how to set up a local network for themselves or for a company that they might work with in the future. I just think that this was a very well this is a very good assignment to have in this course. The next thing that we're going to evaluate is the help desk solution assignments.
All right, so the help desk solution. So we used Freshdesk on this one. I like this because at work we use something similar to this, but not like this. And it's good to see other ways that companies can implement different work orders and tasks and things like that. And to actually create it and get to understand it, it was really enjoyable to do. It was a little frustrating at first, but then we started to play around a little bit, had some fun with it. Um, but yeah, I mean, I really did like this assignment. Griffin, go right ahead.
Yeah, I think I agree just because this it wasn't too difficult to set up. It was fun to play around with just as a group, really. Um, the only criticism that I can think of, there seems to be a little bit missing with this assignment, at least from my perspective, in that this setup requires one person and then sending emails from uh, that to that person or sending in tickets to that person. That makes this assignment kind of confusing to do in a group setting, I believe. But other than that, this assignment was just fun to play with.
Right.
What
Right.
were your thoughts on it, Grady?
So to sum up, I think what you were trying to discuss too, because it was partially a little bit of my frustration too, is I've never worked with a help desk. I've never worked as help desk. So when we just get said implement a help desk and the instructions are a little vague, that kind of led to a little bit of confusion. I feel like even through a lot of the CIS program at school, help desk isn't touched on too much, and this is something that's really gained through that real experience, that real life experience of having an internship, having an entry level job. But aside from that, once we got into it and started exploring it, we started gaining a little bit of that understanding. I do remember that for our group in particular, we asked so many questions of you, and we had you at some weird hour of the night just answering all of our questions. So that was awesome, helping us guide us along there. I think maybe just a little bit different direction wise, but other than that, this project was really fun to work with, and that will take us on to, I think, our cloud video next.
So next we have cloud solutions and implementation, also known as the future. Um, and this assignment that you had us do for this was pretty fun. It's most of my experience with security this term happened to have been in this assignment because I wound up missing the first week. And it was very helpful for me to kind of get an idea of it. With regards to learning the concepts, this concept might be a little bit distracting. Outside of that, this is a very good way to get us to figure out kind of what aspects of cloud everything would have in the business world and how we should go about kind of both implementing it ourselves, marketing it to other people, and learning how to use it just in general. What do you think about it?
Oh, so aside from just all the group work that this really did, I know this term is mainly group work, but collaborating on a project is all fine and dandy. But as we were talking about with the budget, and we saw that huge number, and we're like, this is what it costs to run physical infrastructure, and then we start researching the cloud, and then it really paints the picture of why the cloud is growing the way it is, why it's rapidly expanding, why many businesses are switching to it, and so presenting this and really grounding that information and figuring out like, oh, this is ways we can implement it, this is how we would pitch it to a small business, how small businesses can implement it. I found all of that to be very valuable outside of just the normal group presentation. And have you met Don?
Well, they touched on some pretty good points there. Understanding, not just the the actual information, but working as a team. This project was, about taking a good amount of information that we could probably spend 30 minutes talking about and whittling it down to, 5-6 minutes. It took a lot of patience. It took a lot of, just togetherness to get it done. And, it really taught us how to be a good team and just work well together. And our next subject will be the small business database.
Alrighty, bringing us over to the database portion, and I think I speak for most of the group when I say that this one was probably amongst the more challenging of the projects, but some of the most valuable, because a lot of us only had that one database class as foundation for this project, so we wound up going back to the notes that we took with Lou and kind of reteaching ourselves, like, what is an ERD diagram? What are the commands that we need again? How do we write SQL scripts? So I thought that was great for a refresher, because I really do enjoy the SQL aspect and database aspect of the computer science world. It's just a shame that we don't have more of it to learn with the college, but this was a great way to, like, really take everything that we learned and then refine it again once more and reinstate that knowledge so we don't forget it after we graduate. And then, Dawn, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I agree with that. Seeing the back end of different ways of how servers interact with each other. This is definitely one of the aspects of that, and is MySQL, or SQL in general, databases. It's databases and everything, and to relearn how to set this up was definitely a challenge for me and some other people, and
Me too.
it was fun and frustrating, and um, yeah, it was definitely time consuming, and um, I but in sense I definitely enjoyed it, because then it got me relearning it again. So that was pretty cool to do. Griffin, what do you think about it?
I think that this assignment was very, very fun. Even I have some database setup experience just because I've taken a couple more classes on it than than Donald or Grady had at the time. Um, but it was I still found it rather challenging to kind of set it up, partly because I wasn't familiar with one of the formats of the that you wanted us to use for it, specifically the kind that displays the functions for the particular layouts we have, and things along those lines. Um, but I think that this assignment, outside of that, I think that this assignment was just very enjoyable, if a little bit frustrating. The frustration came partly from just, lack of experience and knowledge on my part as well, because a lot of this stuff just kind of flies out of your head if you're not implementing more than just one table in every assignment. So I think this assignment was very good for our group at the very least. Now we should probably move on to our small business website.
All right, now we're on to our website, which is actually very fun to relearn again. I took a web development class way back in the beginning of my COCC journey, and just relearning how to get everything together, and getting things set up correctly, and relearning how to just do simple things. And this was challenging, and but very rewarding, and it was very fun to be a part of this. Griffin, go ahead and continue going there, buddy.
Okay. So this assignment falls into my wheelhouse pretty thoroughly. This assignment is just set up a business website. And I think that that kind of simple set up a site for the business that that you've theoretically been working as all term. And I think that that premise is very good, especially given like what the requirements for the assignment was. Um, it might just be again because it's kind of the thing that I like to do more often than not. But this assignment is very helpful with figuring out how to lay out websites and help us brush up on our web development just skills in general, because um, more often than not, business will need a website. And so having that particular experience kind of refreshed for most people who are in these kinds of fields is probably a good thing for us to have under our belts at this point. Um, what do you think about it, Grady?
Well, you guys touched some pretty good spots, like relearning HTML. Yes, I find HTML really fun. It wasn't the path that I chose for me career wise, but I always enjoy doing it. The thing that I really learned here is what it takes to collaborate on a project like this with individuals. Because previously, every time it's like make a website, right? And so we go to make a website, and you're in control of everything. You code a specific way, you format a specific way. The challenges we faced here was that there's three individuals who all code three different ways, and putting it all together in a way that makes it still on theme, all look the same, all work together, and still being productive. That's the real value that I took out of this assignment, as well as the HTML practice. But all in all, I think this was a good way to wrap up the term as a good final project, and then I think we'll just have a few words overall to finish us up.
Okay, so now we've come to our final thoughts on the class as a whole. For me, I enjoyed this class very much. While I did miss a couple of assignments here or there, and I did come into the class late, you did provide some extra time for me to kind of get that stuff finished, even though I didn't get some of them complete in time. Um, the What I would recommend implementing in the future is just maybe a little bit more contact with students over the course of the term, not just over in the welcome videos and the providing feedback aspect, but more like you had been doing with our team at the very least, providing input on questions that are presented. Maybe another way to get a hold of you in a quick fashion, because I've had even with the questions that we've sent you, I at least on my end have had a hard time getting a hold of you for certain questions sometimes. Outside of that, for the on the internet aspect of things, that's all the problems I've really had up to this point. Outside of that, this class was fantastic. I enjoyed working with the people that I worked with. The assignments that you provided were very enjoyable, and taught me quite a bit about like the areas that I'm weak in with regards to CIS things, and all around it gives me a perspective of how things generally tend to work in the actual in the real world when it comes to networking and website setup and working with a team within this particular field.
So it goes to me here. What I enjoyed about this class was, you did mention in the beginning that you're not going to be learning too much. You're just going to be pretty much, presenting. But, in all reality, it did teach me, better collaboration skills. And that was very important. Different styles people have to create different projects, and that was pretty cool. One thing I would consider, implementing is the Linux portion, or because this is an IT core, this is CIS. Linux is everywhere, and everybody needs to have at least some basic Linux if they want to be in the IT field. So that is my recommendation. Grady, go right ahead.
All right. So yeah, I agreed as well. Maybe just like a Linux something, like we could even like virtualize a database server, set up a MySQL server on a Linux machine as just one of the projects, and then implement the database from there. But definitely a touch on Linux would be a good addition to all this course material. It's hard to say what I would cut out, if anything, to keep it on track. But definitely, like Don said, you said we weren't going to be learning too much. It'd be more of implementing, but definitely there was still a lot of learning, and I like this way of learning. Just like give me an assignment, and then if I don't know something on it, I reteach myself, I relearn, and then I learn how to implement it correctly, and not just by myself, but in a group situation too. This is great real world experience because it's just how to work with other people, and I think that was probably the most valuable thing that I'm going to take away from this class, aside from the fact that we got to just keep and brush up on all of the skills as a whole and present it as a whole. I hear a lot of horror stories about how other capstone courses go, and All in all, I was really excited coming into this class and during it, and even now finishing it up. I think this was a great class and a great way to finish up a degree program. Huzzah!
Huzzah!